How did my honest confession at our kitchen table end in a public serving of papers that reset our money and our time with our child? Why did everyone clap when I mocked my husband until the lobby gate blinked red and the envelope with temporary orders touched my hand? I'm Undine Vale, 32, a payroll coordinator who counts other people's hours and tries to make her own look tidy. I married Ethan Cole, 35, a civil survey tech who trusts lines and quiet measurements. We have a 6-year-old daughter, Ivy, who asks simple questions that feel like tests. My sister, Sable, calls me brave when I move fast. His mother, Marla, says I am careless, but she says it in a soft voice that sounds like help. I tell myself I am practical, not cruel. I slept with his friend Brady Knox more than once. I said it was comfort. I said Ethan had gone cold. I said repeated nights were proof that I was still alive. I told myself honesty, when it came, would cancel what came before. I liked that logic because it was short and neat. It made the heat sound like care. When I finally spoke at the kitchen table, I framed it as a healthy truth. Ethan asked how many times. I said several. He went quiet and moved to the guest room. I called that punishment. He called it space. At work, I posted a coffee photo and wrote, "That truth is maintenance." Sable sent hearts. Marla sent nothing. Friends laughed on a patio and said I was modern. I said I would not be shamed for choosing myself. Ethan kept steady with Ivy's routines and never raised his voice. I told myself his calm was a tactic. I told myself I still owned the story. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. I started the talk at the kitchen table because I wanted control. I said I had been lonely and needed comfort. I said Brady gave it. I said it was not betrayal, only care. Ethan stood by the sink and dried a bowl like time could stretch. He asked how many times. I said several. He breathed out through his nose and looked at the window. I said honesty should cancel the past. I told myself that line sounded smart. I said Ethan had gone cold, that I felt invisible. I said Brady listened. I said we never meant to hurt anyone. I blamed stress, money, long weeks. I called myself brave for saying it out loud. Ethan asked when it started. I said it was after a work dinner when I felt small. He asked why it continued. I said patterns are real and hard. I said I was testing if I could feel alive. I used words like clarity and healing. I kept my voice even because even voices win. He did not shout. He did not touch anything. He said he needed space. I said space is punishment with a polite face. He said he did not want noise for Ivy. I said I was the one carrying the truth, and truth deserved thanks. He looked at the calendar on the wall and then at me. I told myself he was avoiding me. I told myself I had been strong. I felt steady and light, like a string. I went to the bedroom and rolled my clothes tighter in drawers, like order would make the room agree with me. My phone buzzed. Sable sent a message that said I was finally choosing myself. She added 3 hearts and a crown. I stared at the emojis and felt taller. I texted back that honesty cures rot. She replied that men hate losing control. I told myself that was the whole story. I washed my face for too long. In the mirror, I said I was practical, not cruel. I said I had carried the house for months. I said I needed warmth somewhere. I said Brady just happened to be near. I did not say I liked how easy it felt with him, how I could be light and not plan. I did not say I liked the way he looked at me as if I were new. When I came back to the hall, Ethan lifted a pillow and a folded blanket. He moved toward the guest room. I said he was turning his back to make me feel guilty. He said he needed quiet to think. I said thinking is a stall tactic. He did not answer. He went into the guest room and set the pillow on the bed like a careful waiter. The door closed with a small click. The sound felt larger than it was. I walked to the garage and sat in the car with the engine off. The dark felt safe. I scrolled through Brady's messages. He had written last week that I was brave and real. He had sent a photo of takeout boxes and said I could always come by for talk and rest. My phone lit with a new text preview from him. He asked if I was okay. I placed the phone face down and told myself I was in charge. I told myself I should not look needy too fast. Back upstairs, I checked on Ivy. She slept with her hands open. I stood in the door and whispered that everything was fine. I said we were grown-ups and we could handle big feelings. She turned in her sleep and hugged the blanket. I felt something shift in my stomach, then I smoothed it away. I decided I would make pancakes in the morning and show her we were stable. I returned to the kitchen and opened the budget app on my phone. I told myself I was fair and efficient. I said I saved the family money by planning meals. I said no one saw my effort. I made a new list called Reset and added items: gym, hair, 3 coffee dates, 1 long walk. I wrote Rule 1, no shame. I wrote Rule 2, keep moving. Ethan came out for a glass of water. He said he would read Ivy to sleep tomorrow and take her to the park if the weather held. I said fine in a voice that sounded flat. He nodded and went back down the hall. I wanted him to beg. I wanted him to say I was worth fighting for. Instead, he moved like a person who had put tools in a belt and was choosing the next one. It made me angry and also scared. I messaged Sable that Ethan was being cold and formal. She replied that cold men make rules and call them love. She wrote that I should go out with friends on Friday and let people see my strength. I said I would. I said strength needs an audience. She sent a spark emoji. I liked the spark. I scrolled old photos of Brady and Ethan together from years back. There was a fishing trip, a house move, a birthday. I told myself Brady had always seen me, even in the background. I told myself this history made it complicated in a deep way, not a cheap way. I saved one picture to a hidden album and felt the secret thrum in my palm. I shut off the kitchen light and stood in the dark. The fridge hummed. From the guest room, I heard the faint sound of a phone buzz, then quiet. I thought I heard a calendar reminder, a tiny chime, but it could have been the elevator in the hall outside. I told myself it was nothing. I went to our bed and lay on my side, facing the window. I repeated my rules. No shame, keep moving, control the story. My breath evened out. I felt clean. In the morning, I put on a grey blazer and a quiet necklace. I told myself work was my proof. The open plan floor buzzed with small talk and keys. I placed my laptop on the desk corner like a flag and opened the payroll schedule. Numbers obey. People should too. I posted a coffee photo with the caption, "Truth is maintenance." Sable replied with hearts and a little trophy. I felt taller again. Gina, my manager, pinged me with a short line, asking if I had a minute after stand-up. I told myself it was about the quarter close. I closed my personal tabs. I smoothed my hair in the camera of my laptop and practiced a neutral face. The team meeting was fast. When it ended, 2 analysts kept their heads together and whispered. I told myself they always whisper, but I knew better. The air around me became thin. At my desk, I opened emails and sent 2 quick replies with clean numbers. I wanted people to see speed. A notification popped on my phone. I was tagged in a photo. I tapped. It was a grainy patio shot from weeks ago. The caption said Friday wins. You could see Brady's cap low in the corner and my hand pulling his sleeve. I told myself the shot proved nothing. It could be anyone's hand. But there was my ring flashing under the patio light. Gina came by and asked if we could talk in a meeting room. Her voice was careful and light. I followed her to a small glass box near HR. She said she wanted to chat about optics and client eyes. She said this was routine, nothing formal. I said I understood brand safety better than most. I said I was transparent and strong. She looked tired. She said the office is small and whisper-heavy. She said she just wanted to stay ahead of things. I said, I could help shape the narrative if needed. She thanked me and said we would keep it short and simple. When I came out, my phone buzzed with another tag. It was a boomerang from the same night. I was laughing, and someone had written the words patio clarity over the clip. The word clarity was mine. Seeing it on a stranger's story felt like theft. I told myself they meant it as praise. I told myself my courage moved people. Ruth from HR sent a chat asking if I could stop by for a quick reminder, talk about social posts and reputation. Her tone was neutral and exact. Neutral sounds like mercy until it does not. I replied yes and added a smile emoji. I told myself compliance is a costume I wear well. I put my phone face down and opened the payroll portal again. Work is a raft. I stood on it. At lunch, Cass from my friend circle sent a DM. She asked if I could retell the patio story on Saturday at the club. She said people loved it, and she wanted a short clip for her followers. I typed that I could. She wrote that a toast would make it land. I said I could do a toast. I imagined the glasses, the light, the laugh. It filled my chest like a warm drink. Back at my desk, a third tag landed. It was from someone who knew Brady. The photo was outside the club door and showed his truck in the background. The angle caught me standing too close, my face upturned. The caption said, "Old friends." I wanted to comment that yes, old friends can stand close. I did not. I told myself silence stays classy. Gina passed again and asked if I was okay. I said I was fine and focused. She nodded and said the numbers looked good. I thanked her. Her eyes flicked to my phone and then away. I saw myself as she might see me. Tidy blouse, set jaw, a bright screen with names that are not my husband's. I pressed my lips and thought of Ivy. I pictured her small hands on a pancake plate. The image steadied me, then shook me. At HR, Ruth had a printed list of general reminders. She spoke in calm sentences about brand, privacy, and client-facing behavior. She said personal life can splash. I said I understood, and that the internet twists normal days. She nodded and said, prevention is better than cleanup. She thanked me for stopping by. It was quick, it was clean, it still felt like being measured. On the way back, I passed the break room. A coworker looked at me, and then at another coworker, and then at me again. The look was polite and not kind. I kept my head high. I told myself head height is a language. I returned to my desk and answered 3 messages with perfect numbers and sharp lines. Work is a raft. I said that again in my head. Another notification landed. This time it was a group chat invite from Cass, labeled Saturday plans. There were fireworks emojis and a drink icon. She wrote that the patio story should close the night. I typed a short yes. Then I typed a longer line about honesty erasing shame and about love needing fresh rules. She sent a row of clapping hands. I saw myself on that patio already, telling my story into a lens that would not interrupt. My phone buzzed with a new mention. It was a short video from a friend of Brady's. The camera turned and caught her standing under the club awning as the rain started. The audio was bad, but you could see the way he leaned in to hear me, my face tilted up and open. The caption said, "She gets him." I told myself I was not on trial. I told myself trials are for people who lie. I had told the truth at home. I tried to let that cover me like a coat. Gina stepped to my desk again. She asked in a low voice if I had a moment for another quick word. I nodded. As I stood, my phone lit with another tag. The preview showed the same night, a different angle, my hand on Brady's arm. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself I could still own this. I followed Gina to the room and fixed my face in the glass. The club smoking patio was crowded and loud, with lights that made everyone look better than real life. Cass waved me over and said the group needed a strong story for the night. I said I had one and it was clean. I said honesty came first, and then I chose care. People nodded like I had turned a key. Someone asked if Ethan knew about my new rules. I said he wanted to slow down because he feared change. Cass lifted her phone and said a quick clip would help other women. I said a quick clip was fine. It felt like a show, and I was ready to perform. The patio air smelled like mint and cold smoke. I stood where the camera could see the skyline behind me. I said doubt is not a crime, and tests are normal. I said I tested the marriage because fresh truth works best. A friend said I was fearless. I said fear keeps women small. Another friend said men like Ethan pretend to be gentle but build walls. I said walls are useful in construction, but not hearts. The line landed well, and a few people clapped. My chest warmed with the sound. Cass asked me to retell the first time with Brady. She said the clip needed a hook. I said the hook was simple. I felt invisible. I sought comfort. I found relief. I said the relief was proof that I was still alive. I called it self-care with data. People laughed like it was clever, not cruel. I told myself it was both, and that was fine. Ethan appeared at the patio rail just then. He wore a quiet sweater and looked like someone on an errand. He said the sitter downstairs needed to leave. He said Ivy was waiting in the lobby. I told him I would come down in 10. He said the sitter could not wait that long. I turned to the table and said he enjoyed timing me. A voice behind the phone said he should relax because I was safe with friends. Ethan thanked the host, set cash on the bar for water he had not touched, and said he would take Ivy home. He did not look at the camera. He did not look at me again. He left with an even step that made me want to kick something soft. I said to the group that his silence was a leash. People laughed because the line was sharp. Cass said we should toast to modern rules. I held up my glass. I said, honesty erases old debts. I said shame is for liars. I said my marriage needed new software, and I had installed it. The words were neat and round, easy to hold. Glasses clinked all around me. The red tally light on Cass's phone glowed like a small eye that never blinked. I kept going. I said Ethan had stopped touching my shoulder in the kitchen when he passed. I said he had started measuring his sentences. I said a wife should not feel like a long calculation. I said Brady saw me as a person, not a spreadsheet. Someone whistled and said I was brave. Another said Ethan would learn or lose. I nodded like a leader. A stranger stepped close and asked if the story was real. I said it was real and I was not ashamed. The stranger lifted a phone and began to record too. I smiled like a new product on a shelf. The elevator bell from the lobby behind us dinged, and a group came out with fresh energy. One of them turned, raised a phone, and fired a camera flash by mistake. The bright hit my face and froze my grin. Cass said the flash looked great. I said the night agreed with me. I checked my screen and saw notifications stack. The first clip already had hearts. A comment asked if Ethan knew. I wrote that strong men accept strong truths. Another comment said I was playing with fire. I wrote that fire warms houses. I felt the strange lightness that comes when people listen, and you forget the quiet stakes of your own life. I danced in place for a second and laughed too loud. We moved to the sidewalk for air. The city hummed and made everything feel like it would continue forever. Cass said we should film one more take near the neon sign. I fixed my hair in the dark glass. I said I would end with a line about choosing myself. While I spoke, I pictured Ivy asleep and safe, and I told myself safety for a child proves a mother is right. I believed it for 10 seconds. Then I went back to my pose and lifted the glass again. Sunday lunch stretched long in the family restaurant, with plates and steam, and the careful talk people use when they want peace. I arrived late and blamed traffic. Ethan sat near the end with Ivy. He thanked the server and ordered something mild for her. Marla sat across from me, hands folded like a closed book. Sable placed her phone on the menu like a medal and said the week had been wild. I said I felt clear. No one cheered. A cousin mentioned the patio video and said the lighting was good. I said the message mattered more than the look. Another cousin asked if the message meant I had left the marriage. I said the message meant adults grow. The server poured water and pretended not to hear. I told myself I was still the narrator. The table did not look like an audience. Marla asked if growth can happen without cutting roots. She spoke softly, but the words hit hard. I said plants drop leaves and still live. She folded her napkin once, then again. She said careful hands help the garden. Sable jumped in and said I had been brave to speak truth. She said slowing down is control with a smile. She said the future loves women who move. I thanked her with my eyes and used my fork like a shield. Ethan cut Ivy's food into even pieces and asked her about her reading log. He did not look at me. I told myself his silence was a tactic. I imagined telling the table that he uses quiet like a net. I did not say it out loud because the waiter came back with bread. I bit a piece and told myself bread keeps your mouth busy and stops you from begging. The bill came, and the server set it near Marla by mistake. Ethan reached for it, placed his card, and said he had this one. I said he was buying calm. Marla said, generosity is not control. Sable said sometimes it is. The air thinned. Ethan thanked the staff in that gentle way that makes them smile back. He told Ivy they could stop at the park if the rain held. Ivy clapped and said swings. I said I could join. He said that would be fine. The word fine felt like a fence between 2 yards. At the park, the sky looked rinsed and pale. The swings squeaked. Ethan pushed Ivy with a measured count. Marla sat on a bench and watched the play like it was proof of something. I stood near Sable and said I was keeping my frame. She said the only mistake now would be to back down. I nodded and crossed my arms like armor. A neighbor from our building walked by with a slow dog. She gave a thin smile, looked at me, then at Ethan, then back at me. She typed on her phone while she walked. It felt like a small pen scratching our day. Ivy jumped off the swing and ran to me, cheeks hot, eyes bright. She asked if Mommy's friend would tuck her in tonight. The question was simple and heavy. My mouth made a small sound before my brain found a sentence. I said adults need space to be kind later. She asked if kindness sleeps in different rooms. I said sometimes. She looked at Ethan and asked if sometimes means forever. He crouched and tied her shoe and said her days would stay steady. He did not look at me. The word steady sat like a stone in my throat. I told Marla that children are resilient by nature. She said children are attentive by nature. She did not raise her voice. She watched a pigeon like it had instructions. Sable said I should not let guilt steal my progress. She said our mother used guilt to keep us small. I said I knew. I said guilt lives in old houses. The line sounded good and felt bad. The neighbor slowed by the low fence and raised her phone as if to check the time. The lens faced us for a second, then moved. My chest tightened. I told myself the world loves drama, and I was not feeding it today. Still, I straightened my shoulders and pulled my coat in at the waist, as if posture could argue my case. Ivy climbed the low ladder to the small slide and looked back at me. She asked if Brady would come to the park next time. The name fell like a tool on tile. I said the park is for family. She asked if Brady was family. I said no. She asked if I could stop seeing him then. The words were light as paper and heavy as stone. I said we would talk later. She said later was a long time. Ethan did not speak. He kept his hands in his pockets and watched leaves move overhead like they were part of a lesson. We walked back toward the cars. Ivy asked if we would all go home together. I said I had errands. Ethan said he would take her to the library. Marla said she would meet them later. Sable told me to hold my head high. I lifted my chin and felt silly for needing the cue. The neighbor stopped at the corner and typed again with neat thumbs. I tried to make a joke about new rules and strong mothers. It sounded thin in the air. Ivy took Ethan's hand and skipped 2 steps. I said I would make pancakes next Saturday. She asked which day was our family day now. I said both days could be. It sounded weak even to me. Marla said the weather would be good next weekend. Her voice made the future sound like a calendar, not a wish. On the walk to the lot, Ethan's phone buzzed once and went silent. I glimpsed a small dot on his lock screen and a title I could not read before it dimmed. I told myself it was a school notice. I told myself anything that kept me big. The breeze cooled the sweat at my neck. I caught my own reflection in a car window. Chin high, mouth tight, eyes listing like a ship. I looked at Sable and said I was fine. She said I looked strong. I said the city would always side with a woman who knows herself. I needed the sound of that sentence more than I needed the truth. HR called me in with a neutral tone. Ruth waited in the small room near the copier and spoke in careful lines about outside-of-work posts. She said public clips can spill into clients. I said the internet twists normal life. She said prevention is easier than cleanup. I nodded and held a soft smile. I told myself the company likes calm faces more than calm facts, and I can give faces. Back at my desk, I typed fast, like speed could drown whispers. Gina passed and asked if I was okay. I said I was focused and fine. She said we could talk later. Her voice had that careful balance, like she was carrying glass. A new mention blinked on my screen. Another patio clip reshared. I put my phone face down and stared at payroll columns. Numbers clicked into place. My mood did not. I went to the supermarket after work because normal errands fix messy air. The checkout line moved slow. A neighbor stood behind me with herbs and a lemon. She asked if my week was busy. I said it was. She said she saw a funny toast online and hoped it was just a joke. I said people can make anything look like anything. She gave a thin smile and looked away, which felt worse than words. I bought milk for Ivy and a cheap bouquet, like proof I was still soft. At home, the apartment felt cooler, measured in squares. On the hall shelf sat a labeled folder, household. It was squared to the edge like a ruler had checked it. On the table lay a small notebook with dates copied in neat lines. In the guest room, the laptop showed a spreadsheet with boxes and days. No names, just blocks. The screen dimmed, then woke when I passed. I told myself it was budget planning. I told myself he was nesting in numbers because feelings were hard. I told myself many things. Ethan read to Ivy on the couch. He asked if I could sit with her while he made tea. His voice was even. He moved around the kitchen with quiet hands. After Ivy's light clicked off, I said the office had been loud with gossip and that he could help by shutting down noise on his side. He said he would not manage stories. He said he wanted stability for Ivy. The words felt like a small wall I had not seen until I bumped it. He asked if we could set weekends in advance, so Ivy would know where she wakes. He drew a little grid on a sticky note and pressed it flat. I said it looked like a custody chart. He said it looked like care. I said he was withholding affection to punish me. He said he was drawing a boundary to protect our nights. I called his calm performative, like a show for people who are not here. He looked at the table, not at me. Then he said he would handle this properly. He said it slow, like a level finding even. I laughed and asked if he was trying to scare me with office words. He did not answer. He lifted the household folder and squared it again, as if the edge mattered. From the guest room, the printer began to spool. A steady whir and a pause. I walked to the tray and found it empty. The sound stopped. A soft calendar chime rang from his phone and then went quiet. He closed the door with a gentle click. On the balcony, I held the cheap bouquet and felt the stems bite my palm. The night air was colder than my captions. I told myself proper is just another word for petty. I told myself he was bluffing. The stem snapped in my fist, green and wet, like proof of nothing. I dressed sharp for a client morning and told myself posture is armor. The office tower lobby was stone and glass and a hum that made small people feel smaller. I took a quick selfie by the plant wall with a caption that said, "Big day." The turnstiles clicked like a metronome. I loved that sound when it meant my story was working. A man in a plain jacket stepped toward me and said my full name. His voice was steady, like he read from a card inside his head. He said he had documents for me. He held out an envelope and stated that I had been served. He spoke clearly about what it was, a divorce petition with temporary orders. He said there was a temporary custody schedule for Ivy, with exchange times and pickups. He said there were temporary restraints on moving shared funds until a hearing. He said the initial hearing date was listed. He said service was complete at this time. I laughed too loud and called it a prank. He did not answer. He noted the time in a small notebook. Security watched from the desk with neutral faces. 2 co-workers stepped off the escalator and slowed when they saw the envelope. Gina came through the turnstiles, looked at me, looked at the papers, and then looked away. I said my husband was being petty. A guard asked if I needed a seat. I said no, I needed air. I pressed my badge to the gate. The light blinked red. The gate did not open. I pressed again, red again. The beep was small and exact, like a toy alarm that never gets tired. Security said sometimes systems lag after a reset. He spoke kindly, not soft. A phone camera clicked near the elevator. The sound slid across the stone and landed in my stomach. I texted Sable that it was theatre and I would not play. She wrote back that I should ignore and keep walking. I wrote to Marla that Ethan was out of line. Marla sent one message. Please put Ivy first. The words pressed down on my chest like a steady hand. I thought about the sticky note with boxes and the spreadsheet glow and the household folder squared to the edge. They were not theatre. They were steps. Gina stepped closer and said we could talk later about optics and any time I needed. Her voice kept even. I held the envelope until the edges bit my palm. The server in the plain jacket walked to the exit and did not look back. People flowed around me. Their shoes made a careful music. The lobby screens showed a looping ad with bright colors that felt wrong. I stood still and tried to slow my breath. I told myself I was still the narrator of my life. The envelope said otherwise. I lifted my chin because posture is armor, and armor is something even when it is only a pose. The badge beeped red again. Another small camera click sounded as someone passed. Security wrote in a logbook with a patient pen. The sound of the pen was softer than the clicks, but I heard it anyway. I thought of Ivy asking, "Which day is our family day now?" I thought of Ethan tying her shoe and saying steady. I thought of my patio speech about new software and brave truth. The lobby air felt colder than any caption. I looked down at the envelope and felt the world tilt a degree toward procedures that do not listen to stories. I held my face still. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.